purpose of this session was to provide just a brief overview of the organization, the home ownership process, and some of the expectations associated with our program. I'd like to start by sharing a little information about Habitat for Humanity and our mission, and I'll read our mission statement to you. We are dedicated to eliminating substandard housing and preserving homes by advocating for fair and just housing policies and by providing training and access to resources to help improve shelter conditions. Well, what does Habitat really do to facilitate that mission? And we build and sell affordable homes to income-qualified families that live or work in Island County. We don't give away homes to families at no charge. We don't rent homes except for in very special circumstances. And after you buy your home, it is your home. You don't rent any longer. A little bit of history about our organization. The Habitat for Humanity International was founded in 1976 by Linda and Millard Fuller in Americus, Georgia. Over 4 million have been sheltered worldwide through the Habitat for Humanity program. President Jimmy Carter is probably the most famous Habitat for Humanity advocate and promoter, but he wasn't our founder. He's just been a great volunteer and has the public limelight and able to shed a lot of light on our program. Locally, our program was founded by Marlene and Vic Jones in 1998, who traveled and went to a Habitat Global Village build in '96 and were so amazed by the program that they thought we had a big need for that here locally and founded this organization. We built our first home a year later, and since then we've grown considerably and have completed over 65 homes on the island. I'm going to talk about our family selection process. Who makes the cut? How do you qualify with credit? How long is the wait? You know, what if my family doesn't fit your model? I don't have kids or I'm single or those types of things. So we'll talk a little bit about how this works. Some qualifications into our program include you have to be a first-time home buyer. That doesn't disqualify somebody who has owned a home in the past, because the first-time home buyer criteria through the USDA means you can't have owned your primary residence in the last 3 years. So if you owned a home 10 years ago, sold it, and you've been renting ever since, you may still qualify into the first-time homebuyer program. You must have steady and sufficient income to meet our income guidelines established by the loan program. It doesn't mean you have to have a job. Your income may or may not come from actual employment. You may have other sources of income, and all of those sources of income have to be combined and add up to fit within our income guidelines. We don't maintain a waiting list. Each time there's an opportunity for homeownership, a prospective homeowner needs to complete a new application with their current information and complete the same process. We don't necessarily need to go through the informational round again, but each time we do a homeownership opportunity, we have to evaluate current applications at that time for that opportunity. What we will try to do is combine opportunities into one application cycle. So if we have 3 home opportunities that may be available, we'll do one application process and select 3 qualified families out of that process. So we wouldn't accept 3 applications at the same time for 3 separate homes, but we try to lump our opportunities together so you can do one application for multiple opportunities. All qualified applicants are presented to a selection committee who will determine which family Habitat is going to partner with on that build. Once an applicant is selected, there is a wait. Sometimes it takes longer than 3 or 4 months to get into that home. During that time, there's very stringent requirements to keep your credit in check, make sure that your income still falls within those guidelines, because right before closing, the lender who actually makes the home loan is going to recheck that you still fit within all the criteria needed to close that loan. So that length of time can be a little stressful for a homeowner or a potential homeowner who has to make sure that they aren't using their credit card for emergencies and things along those lines during that period. And that's really important for the program. We don't define your family. We don't look at whether you have kids or a spouse or a partner or a multi-generational household when making our decision as to whether you qualify for the program. Okay? The only time that your family size has any impact on the application is to fit within the income guidelines. Depending on how many people are living in your home, there's a different range of income. So the more people you have in your home, the more money you're allowed to make and still fit within what they consider the low income guidelines. So simply, you need to fit within the income guidelines, pass a background check, pass a credit check, and be willing to partner with us and have a housing need. And what do we actually do for our home buyers? Typically, we just facilitate the process for you. We are not the lender. In fact, when Habitat first started, we were the lender. We would raise a bunch of money, build a home, and then select a family to move in, and they would pay their mortgage directly back to Habitat for Humanity. Well, that mortgage amount was typically between $500 and $800 a month. And so it takes many, many years to be able to recoup enough money to build another home. So they would build a home, sell it, raise more money, then build a home again and sell it. So we've changed our model. Now we work with other lenders, mainly the USDA, the U.S. Department of Agriculture, through their Rural Development Program, where they offer direct loans to home buyers. In fact, you don't need our program to apply to the USDA RD program. They have what they call the 502 Direct Loan Program, and as long as you fit within their criteria and their guidelines, they can approve you for a home loan, even with low or very low income. However, being part of our program allows us to help package that loan for the USDA and facilitate your process. So when the USDA needs paperwork, we help you know what you need to turn in, when you need to turn it in. We make sure that you're getting the right information to them, getting it timely, and we're kind of the liaison between you and the USDA. It can be a little bit of a daunting process, and you continually have to update all your bank statements and your tax information. When you file taxes at the end of the year, it needs to be submitted to them. And there's lots of little things that we have to do along the way. We facilitate that process. We also have access to all the materials, the labor, the volunteers, and everybody to help build the home. And we provide the instruction on site and the management on site to help you help build your home and bring all the volunteers in to make that happen. There's a myth often associated with Habitat for Humanity, is that we give away a home to a deserving family. And that can't be farther from the truth. The truth is, what you really win is a mortgage payment and tax liability and maintenance liability, right? And work that you have to do. When things fail, you don't get to call the landlord and say, hey, my hot water heater broke, come deal with it. I'm sorry, but as a homeowner, that responsibility will fall on you. You will end up with more bills and more responsibilities when you come out of this program. So it's just a fact of life. You will have tax payments, you will have insurance payments, you will be responsible for those maintenance issues that you used to be able to defer to the homeowner. So this program is really intended for someone who is ready to devote the time to put into the program for the build, is ready to take on the responsibility of the financial commitment and all the maintenance and everything that goes along with owning a home. So the reality is that we just can't be the saving grace once that home is purchased, right? We will help facilitate getting you into an affordable situation that is safe and decent housing. But at that point, we are just there to be a guide and a resource for you as you navigate the homeownership process of saving for routine maintenance items and doing that maintenance. Now, the beauty is that by building your home hand in hand with us, you'll understand a lot of those systems in your home and have a much better understanding of how they work and how to maintain them and how to keep them from failing. But things always happen, and that's just the way it goes. You'll have septic system issues that just come along with being a homeowner over time. And all those costs and responsibilities do fall on homeowners. There are some sacrifices as well in the fact that we don't build custom homes. If you're dreaming about putting this very specific countertop in your kitchen, well, that's not going to happen during a Habitat build, but it doesn't mean that after you close the sale, you can't save some money and do some upgrades to your home. That is perfectly acceptable, but we don't let potential home buyers pick and choose features and custom accents in their home. What we do is build simple, decent, affordable housing, and we keep the costs low by putting in lower cost items and not high-end custom items. We also utilize a community affordable land trust. Habitat operates the only affordable community land trust on the island, and every one of our properties is sold into that trust, who maintains ownership. And our home buyers lease that land back from our home trust for 99 years. Now, there's usually a $25 payment. There is a sliding scale based on your income range, but our typical home buyer pays $25 a month for their lease. They get the opportunity to use the land just as it was their own, with a few restrictions. You can't build a rental unit behind your house and things like that, but you can landscape and put in a fire pit and do those types of things on the property to enjoy it. So you never do end up with the opportunity to purchase that land, however. Even if you make it through the entire term of your mortgage and you own the structure that sits on that land, you will still be leasing that land from the land trust for the future. What that does is it allows us to keep all of these homes affordable in perpetuity. If you own your home and decide to sell it back to us 20 years down the road, we're going to spend a lot more to buy it back from you. However, we're only buying the structure and not the land. So we can remove almost a third of the price of that property to the next buyer as well. So even though prices will appreciate and escalate over time during those next 20 years, it will still be a third of the price lower than any of its neighboring properties. If your greatest obstacle to home ownership is a lack of a down payment, if you were denied a home loan for anything other than your credit score, maybe you had not enough income to qualify in the open market, be a great example. If you're willing and able to work on building your own home, if you're willing to buy a modest and simple home, if you understand we're not a custom construction company, and if you have stable and verifiable income, this might be the right program for you. And our goal really is just to provide simple, decent, and affordable homes and keep the size down and the efficiency up to keep long-term maintenance and purchase costs affordable. Our homes are all built to Energy Star Northwest standards, which means all the appliances are energy efficient, and your insulation is of a high enough standard to keep the heating costs low. We use low-flow water fixtures to keep your utility rates down. And again, with the goal to make homeownership affordable for the long term and not just for the purchase. We also purchase homes back from our homeowners. If you get 5 or 10 years down the road and your life changes and you need to leave the area, or maybe you've gotten a better job and saved up and you're ready to buy a better house on the open market, as part of our lease in the land trust, we retain what's called a first right of refusal. And so before you're allowed to offer that home on the open market, Habitat for Humanity gets the first chance to buy it back. And the buyback price is actually written into your lease. Depending on how long you've owned the home, you're allowed to earn 1.5% equity per year. So after year 6, you actually start earning equity in your home. And if you sell it back to us, you will actually earn some money if the condition is still good enough that we don't have to deduct cost for damages. But you can actually earn equity that can be used for a down payment on your next home or however you need to use that money. But it does take 6 years before you have the ability to earn that equity in your home. So when we do repurchase a home, again, it's in the land trust. So we're only paying for 2/3 of the value of the home when we buy it back. We then remodel the home, rehab it, and turn it essentially back into a new home. It'll be slightly lived in, but it'll be freshened up and the quality of a new home. And then we sell that to a new home buyer. Of course, that home buyer participates in the rehab of that home during the process. So what is our formula for keeping these homes affordable? We've talked about a few of these things, such as the sweat equity that you have to put in and actually work on the home that you're building. We use volunteer labor. We use grants from the federal government and from other sources to help subsidize some of the costs. The best grant potential that we have right now is called the Community Development Block Grant. So our next homeowner will receive $25,000 towards their down payment on the home. And we have a few of those remaining in the pool of money that's been set aside for us. So our next couple applicants that are selected will have the advantage of having that down payment grant. There are restrictions that come along with those grants, and they're written into the contracts that if you sell within a certain period of time, that grant gets paid back out of the equity that you earn and so on. But those things are forgivable over time. So the longer you stay in your home, the less of that money you owe back. So really our program is designed to get you a decent, affordable place and keep you there long term. That's really what we're attempting to do. We use the community land trust model to keep that price affordable. We use donated materials. Habitat for Humanity International has partnerships with many different manufacturers of products. We get tools donated for the construction site. A lot of our insulation is donated by Dow Corning. We get roofing materials and paints and flooring and all sorts of things are donated by companies to help keep that cost of materials down to keep everything affordable. We also are able to leverage some reduced and subsidized interest programs for the lending, such as the 502 Direct program from the USDA. That program, if you meet certain income qualifications, they'll actually give you a reduction in your interest rate to help keep the home affordable. And again, that community land trust model is really a big part of how we keep those things affordable in the long term. Kind of share the differences between some of the products that are out there versus our program. If you were going to build your own home on the open market, most competitive construction loans from lenders require a 20% down payment. And that's 20% of the land price and the construction price. That is out of reach for most people. They require reserve accounts for up to 6 months of taxes and insurance up front, which can amount to up to $2,000 up front in the purchase. You do have to buy the land. Oftentimes for a 1,200 to 1,500 square foot house, your construction costs will range somewhere in the $200,000 range. There's a 1% to 2% loan fee, which can be up to $5,000 or $6,000. And your typical principal, interest, taxes, and insurance payment that you would make monthly after you finish the home would be in the $1,700 range, potentially up to $2,000. With Habitat for Humanity and our construction program, the only funds that come out of your pocket up front are $600 for your down payment. That's required as we close. We don't collect a reserve account for your taxes and interest and insurance. We don't have you purchase the land. There's a potential for no loan fee. Construction costs are significantly lower than the open market construction and average about $120,000 to $130,000 per home, which doesn't include any labor costs and includes a lot of donated materials. And in comparison to that $1,700 payment that you would get on an open market construction loan, our typical payment is under $1,000. There are also some loans designed just to purchase homes that already exist instead of constructing your own. And this would be a comparison to our rehab programs. And there are some of those open market programs that have very low down payment of 3% to 5% or sometimes even 0% for some programs similar to the VA loans. They often include the land in the sale. There is, again, a loan fee on those open market programs that costs upwards of $4,000. There's private mortgage insurance if you don't have that 20% down payment. And your typical monthly payment on those is in excess of $1,500 for a similar home to what we build. Again, with Habitat for Humanity, the down payment is $600. It's the only thing out of pocket that we charge other than the credit fee during the application process. There is no loan fee. The land, again, is excluded from the sale. There's no penalty for a zero down payment, whereas with other loans you have to pay that private mortgage insurance, so that's a significant savings. And again, our typical mortgage payment is less than $1,000 a month. What does it take to partner with Habitat for Humanity? We have 3 criteria, and we've discussed this briefly. 1 is the need for housing, 2 is an ability to repay, and 3 is a willingness to partner with the organization. To talk about need a little bit, this is a very subjective criteria, and there's a lot of variables in there and a lot of ways that you could qualify for a need. Needs are things from overcrowded housing situations, hazardous or substandard conditions. Maybe there's mold on the wall or wiring issues. Maybe you don't have a heat source, broken windows that can't be replaced. Maybe you pay more than 40% of your gross income towards housing expenses. We consider that a need for housing. You live in an unsafe or unsuitable neighborhood. You have inoperable plumbing, kitchens, bathrooms, that sort of thing. There's lots of different ways that we can prove a need for decent and safe housing. Our minimum income for a family of 1 is just above $16,000 in gross income. For a family of 4, the maximum income would be just about $60,000 per year in gross income for a family of 4. A family of 6, gross income could be up to $70,000 or more. So based on your family size, there is a sliding scale for that income, which is adjusted to take into account how many people you're feeding and those types of things. When you apply to be a homeowner with Habitat, you commit to an actual mortgage, and with the USDA, those range in length up to 38 years. So this can be a long time commitment. What we do is we need to ensure that you're able to afford this mortgage and meet their income qualification guidelines. And calculating income is not always as clear-cut as some people think. So if you feel like you're close to this range but not quite sure, it's usually worth doing the application, and we can help you whittle that down and see where you fit. We don't try to exclude anyone from our program. My goal is to find as many qualified applicants as I can, and then I send them on to a selection committee who reviews all the qualified applicants to determine who we're going to partner with. So it's not my job to exclude people. My job is to find as many qualified people as we can. And our third need is a willingness to partner. It's critical in the core of our program. We pride ourselves in providing a hand up and not a handout. Right? Our mission is to educate you, facilitate your process, and get you into simple and safe, affordable housing. But it is a partnership, and it requires a lot of input on your end. There's communication back and forth with our administrative team. There's time on the job site. There's time spent volunteering in the store. There's time taking educational classes on finances and home ownership and maintenance and those things. So it is a large commitment, and we're looking for a partner, not a winner. Right? This isn't a program that you're going to win a house. So sweat equity during that partnership. There will be a minimum of 250 hours required during the process. At least 50 of those hours, depending on whether you're in the rehab program or the new build program, that minimum hours will change, but at least 50 of those hours have to be done on your own home. Okay, and then there are some all-purpose hours that you can do in the store or on other people's homes, and there is the education requirements as well. Another way that homeowners meet a lot of their Sweat equity hours is by having family and friends participate in their home build, and they earn hours for those family and friends as well. But there still is a minimum amount that you have to do personally. So what are the next steps in our process? You've already been through step one, attending the informational meeting, finding out a little bit more about the program, and deciding whether or not you think it's right for you to continue forward. If you feel like this is something you want to pursue in further detail, we need to complete that intake form. I'll take all the intake forms and I'll be scheduling an appointment with each person to meet with a local lender who will do a credit review and set you up to be able to look at your own financial situation and determine whether you feel you meet the criteria close enough to pursue an official application. Okay? So again, if you think you're close, we want you to go through the official application. If during that initial interview with the lender we find out that there's bankruptcies that haven't been discharged, or things that are going to be long-term fixes, or the credit score just isn't quite there, the income just isn't quite there, then they will work with you for longer-term credit retrieval processes and getting yourself ready to get into the program for the next opportunity. Those that do feel like they're ready to move forward at that point will go into our official application process. So a complete application includes the actual application form itself, your filed tax returns for 2 years, your W-2s and 1099s for 2 years, copies of bank statements for the previous 2 months, your Social Security card, driver's license, pay stubs for 2 months. If you're divorced, a copy of the divorce decree. And if you're receiving child support or any other form of income along those lines, we need to see a copy of that child support order or any other verification of those income streams. And we need to have everything signed and dated with the application, and a copy of authorization for a criminal background check as well. There is a credit report fee. $33 for a single applicant and $43 for a co-applicant, which needs to be submitted at the time of that official application. Once that application is ready to be submitted, we'll schedule an appointment to sit down with me and we'll review that official application and get you started in the program. So, again, the next step is the intake form, meeting with the local lender for your credit history review. And then if you decide to proceed into the program, an official application, and then we'll schedule an appointment for that. Once you meet all of those requirements and we go into the official application process, while the selection committee is reviewing your application, we expect you to perform your first 8 hours of sweat equity, typically in the store. However, if we are building or constructing anything at that point, we'll ask for some of those hours to be done on site as well. So once the selection committee has reviewed all the applications and they determine which applicants they would like to present to the board, then we take those applications to the board of directors to make the final decision on which family we partner with. Once approved into the program, you end up signing an agreement that outlines your responsibilities as a potential home buyer and what you can expect in return from Habitat for Humanity. And then you begin working towards your sweat equity goal on the home, meeting all your financial requirements, and we start going through the mortgage application process with local lenders or the USDA or whoever we're partnering with on that particular package.
She's waiting for love to be realized. I'll send her